Excuse me, Mr. DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your Midday Market Report for Friday, March 17, 2023. Happy St. Patty's Day. If you had Xavier going far in your bracket, you might want to turn the game and pray and maybe come back to it in 15, 20 minutes. Kennesaw's out to a 13-point lead there. Michigan State and Izzo's Armies look like they might advance. And Baylor right now having a hell of a battle right now with Cal Santa Barbara. Earlier today, myself and John Mergis were on this morning for the Breakfast Bankroll talking about yesterday's carnage. Where is Arizona? Well, I'll tell you where Arizona is. They're back home, scratching their head and wondering, the books beat the crooks. And I said it. That's right. There was a coach there for a while that was working wonders, wink, wink, and no longer there. Actually coaching Xavier right now that is struggling. So 2 o'clock, the debut of the solo chair, Mr. Matt Grissom at Grissom Tweets, will come on solo. Can talk a little about the madness, about the carnage. He has an amazing setup. I know he's watching that, but we want to talk some college baseball. I've had him and Johnny V on. 3 men in a box, basically, the last 2 weeks. So get Matt on by himself to break down some teams, how his weekend went, and what he sees moving forward, and for this weekend's matchup. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Matt Grissom.
What's going on, Jeff?
Afternoon, sir. How are you?
I can't complain. I've got basketball behind me and baseball in front of me. Just ready to make some money this weekend.
Did you enjoy yesterday? Let me ask you that.
I enjoyed it very much. Arkansas Razorbacks won, my hometown team, and they beat Tennessee and covered. So all around, just a fantastic day. And how about the Furman, what are they, the Paladins? That did you have Virginia going far? Because that was a pretty amazing game.
No, it seemed like the public was on the Furman side. Virginia had that one in hand and gave it away. But the later game, Arizona, I thought Princeton would put up a decent fight. I really did. And comically, I had spreadsheets that had them scoring 90 and above, and I think they ended up with 55. Something was in the water. Something happened at halftime. Never mind the last 5-8 minutes of the first half. They just didn't seem to have it. Crazy day for sure. I guess my question is, I don't know if you've peeked. Did you peek at Arkansas's look-ahead line yet?
4.5 now, Kansas.
But it was 3.5 was the opening number. There's only one way that number could go, and that's the Kansas side. So were you a little surprised at how low that number was?
I was. I had to take Kansas.
You jumped in at 3.5, 4 or 4.5?
Yeah, 3.5. Laid it with Kansas. I struggle all the time, bet with my head or bet with my heart. And when I saw that line, I thought it was way too low. Arkansas, they tried to give the game away yesterday. They just cannot close it out. They face adversity and they collapse emotionally. And it's just one of those things where I think Kansas is the better sound team. And if Bill Self is back, I'm not sure if he's going to be on the sidelines or not, which yesterday against Howard, it really didn't show that it mattered. But I just think this Kansas team is too tough, and I just don't think that the Hogs have the horses to contend with them. Now, I'd love to be wrong. It'll be my best bet I've ever lost to see them win, but I can't do it. That's way too low. I would have made the number Kansas like -8.5.
I could have saw, honestly, in my head a 5.5, and they'll try to extract some money that way. But when they opened it up at 3.5, Vegas is making a stance. They're begging for Kansas money, and that will be closer to 5.5, maybe even 6 by tip-off.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people that I listen to, like on VSiN, they're not high on either Purdue or Kansas as a 1 seed, and time will tell. I think Alabama is hands down the best team in college basketball right now, but these 1 seeds, they're going to struggle now. Whether or not, I look through a red lens when I see the Razorbacks playing against anybody, but I've always said, when I do bet with them, it is part my head, part my heart, but I know this team better than any other team. So I feel like I'm missing out on an advantage if I don't bet them. And I'm telling you right now, I don't see us beating Kansas.
Well, I think midstream on a couple shows, and I gave it out to our ECSI 35 and fun. I read them. I love the coach. I love the run last year. And what I like most is if you can get through the first weekend, you can find some hedge spots to, hey, I still got this 35-40 to 1 ticket. I can play both sides of the fences to at least offset when they do eventually get knocked out, or they get back to the Sweet 16, Elite 8. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. I mean, if they get past Kansas, I think they could go the whole way, but it's still going to be a tough little bracket down there.
What do you see before we jump into baseball? What are some of your leans today? What are you seeing for later this afternoon, this evening? Any Cinderellas, any dogs, or you playing any chalk today?
So the early games, I had Kennesaw State plus 7.5 in the first half, and Michigan State -1.5 for the game. I think both of those cashed. I have not been watching it. I've just literally been facing forward for the last hour and a half. But I'm on St. Mary's -4. I think I got it at 3.5. Drake plus 2.5. Florida Atlantic plus 2.5, and Kent State plus 4.5. And I feel like everybody in the country is on Kent State. For whatever reason, they're just not buying into this Indiana team. But hey, if we can all cash on these dogs, I love the madness. Let's have upset city.
I got my UConn shirt on, and I was in Vegas last year. I told the world at BetMGM that they were going to lose outright to New Mexico State. They thought I was on crack, and New Mexico State dominated that game. They never once had anyone fooled or me fooled that they were going to win that game. I'm sitting here today that can look you straight in the eye, everyone watching and listen. I don't fear today. I think the fact that Rick Pitino is coaching on the other side is just enough of an awakening to say, all right, guys, let's go. They're 9 points right now. Let me see if it moved. Yeah, they're a flat, actually 9.5 right now at Circa. I see them covering. I see them dominating this game. I'm scared shitless, Matt, because I see on Sunday UConn versus St. Mary's. I see a 3.5 point favorite UConn in my head. I see first 1 to 50 wins, and I just have that gut feeling it's going to be St. Mary's.
Yeah, I could see the St. Mary's. I don't think is very good. I think if y'all are matched up, you get St. Mary's versus UConn. I think y'all roll St. Mary's. I mean, it's similar to what Gonzaga did. I just don't think St. Mary's is that great. But, yeah, today I think Pitino has 1 foot out the door. I know several people that are on Iona to cover that 9. I don't see it. I would lay it with UConn before I bet Iona.
All right, let's jump on to the green grass. And how did your weekend make out? Myself, you and Johnny last Friday talked about some games. How was your weekend?
Boston College on Saturday at plus 220, I think, saved me some money. We laid it Friday and they lost, and then we bounced back and hit them at actually plus 260 over Virginia Tech. So that was a nice little winner. Friday, Saturday has been pretty consistent. Sunday is where I need to just stop betting it. I mean, there's too much chaos with these bullpen games. It's a travel day. They're ready to go home. For whatever reason, I've just had zero success betting on Sundays. So if you just focus on my Friday and Saturday play and then maybe fade me on Sunday, you may make some money in this.
I have the board in front of me. Before we dive into it, I've had a lot of people ask. They're looking to hear some breakdowns, some team breakdowns. You of course have more information than the baseball almanac, it seems sometimes, and so I'm kind of curious to you. Give us a breakdown. Maybe one of the games, the series that are going to go on this weekend, but give us a breakdown of one or two of these teams, where they stand today and where you see them moving forward.
Well, I'll talk about one that's about to start here in about 10 minutes, but you've got Alabama who jumped into the top 25 rankings at number 24. They're playing Florida down in Gainesville. Brandon Sproat started last night for Florida and pitched a full game, gave up 1 hit, 0 runs. Just had a phenomenal game, and me and Johnny were talking about him and his draft stock moving up. Today, Alabama's going to throw, I think, Ben Hess, who's got a 1.83 ER. He's going to go up against Hurston Waldrop. I didn't see what the latest line was, but I'm sure Florida is a probably minus 160, 170 favorite. I feel comfortable with Florida. I don't think Alabama's there yet. I think here in a couple of years they could be a legitimate baseball program, which scares me because they're de facto good in every single sport. But I think Florida's the right side here. I think they win this series 2-1, if not sweep them. So that would be one that I want to get out there now. They are playing a doubleheader, and I think Jack Caglianone is going in the second game. So I'm on the under for the first game at 2:30, and then I'll probably lay Florida run line or money line, depending on what it is in the later game. But double headers can be tricky, so tread lightly.
Leading up to where we are right now, obviously March Madness takes over the scene here. Baseball is almost a forgotten sport. A lot of these schools that are in the big dance, they're playing in front of not a lot of fans. Back east, the weather's still not warm. Down south, obviously, it is. I guess my question before we dig into a couple more games here is where we are today and where you started. You guys have talked about the Campbells of the world and a few others that were flying under the radar. If I asked you right now today, any of these teams that started slow, starting to cook with Crisco, as I like to say, and starting to get up and maybe flying a little under the radar that you could see picking up momentum?
Are you talking about the mid-majors or just any team in general?
In general.
I mean, so a mid-major route, I think you've always got to keep an eye on Southern Miss with Tanner Hall and East Carolina with Spidey. I think they're two solid pitchers that, they have Power 5 school arms. As far as other schools, I think Tennessee, they did get off to a rocky start, but they're the shortest shot to win it all. And, right after that is LSU. And Tennessee and LSU are going to be really tough to beat. I don't see anybody taking the SEC from either of those two schools. I do lean Tennessee, but what I've seen out of Paul Skeens and now that LSU seems to have gotten their pitching rotation sorted out with getting Riley Cooper out of there, getting Thatcher Hurd worked into the mix. I like LSU, but my futures bet's on Tennessee to win the SEC, so we're going to ride that out. I think their pitching rotation is better than LSU, even though LSU's got the better hitters. So it'll come down to hopefully a pretty good series here in a couple weeks between the Tigers and Vols. Outside of that, Vanderbilt did respond really well yesterday against Ole Miss. They opened up season conference play, and they beat them, I think, 12-3. So a lot of people were waiting on Vanderbilt to kind of show up, of the Vanderbilt of old, and they may have done it. I'm not high on Vanderbilt nor Ole Miss this year. So this may just be one of those series that's a wash. But I think if you could find some advantages betting the plus money dog on either whoever's the dog on it, I think you're probably going to make money on that series. But outside of that, I mean, if Arkansas could get Brady Taggart back and get this rotation finalized, Dave Van Horn's been playing with it here this weekend. We're actually going to start our Sunday starter in Hunter Holland today and conference play against Auburn. So I'm curious to see how that pans out. Hagen Smith not listed as a starter at all, and he was our Friday night ace, which is kind of confusing to me, but we'll see.
I don't have any numbers in front of me. Can you potentially find for me a UConn update? I have no idea how they've started this year.
I actually got a DM on Twitter last night asking about UConn, and it made me look into them a little bit, and told the guy you should go ahead and bet them. I think it's a fair line at minus 165. They ended up winning. But let me get it pulled up, and we'll see how the Huskies are doing. Now, they had that magical run last year before would they get knocked out by Stanford?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they beat San Diego State last night 10-2. So that puts them 10-4 on the year.
Okay.
I got a little 4-game series with the Aztecs.
Now, I know it's not SEC or whatever, but preseason, were they the pick in the Big East, or who was the team to beat in the Big East?
I think UConn was the shortest shot in the Big East. I need to go back and look at who I bet. But, yeah, I want to say UConn. UConn's probably the best team in the Big East that I could think of.
I mean, we're not known for baseball. I mean, we do have George Springer and a few other major leaguers in our Hall of Fame, but it was a magical run. Stanford said, not so fast, UConn. We're sending you back. It didn't help either that it was in Stanford either, by the way.
Yeah, I bet on y'all to win that series. The plus money price was too good, but, I'm not going to hold it against you.
Hey, I got to ask you a question because you brought this up, and I think this is amazing how you should look at it. When you get two powerhouses, we're talking LSU and Tennessee, matching up, even if the starting pitcher is a big favorite, in a series, isn't it better off just to take the dog every time? I mean, granted, it doesn't work every time, but when you got two evenly matched teams, yeah, slight edge goes to the starter, but the actual teams themselves grab the plus money and pray.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's a coin flip game, then it should be minus 110, minus 110. So if you can get a plus in front of either team, that's the side to lay it with.
All right, I have my board in front of me right now. 3:00 North Carolina Pitt. I got Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Missouri, Auburn, Kansas that you talked to, Arkansas, excuse me, South Alabama, Georgia here, Tech, Louisville, over under a 13 there to boot, Liberty, Gulf Coast, Mississippi State, Kentucky, another decent matchup. Where LSU and A&M, where are your eyes?
The one that stuck out to me most was LSU, only minus 165 against Texas A&M. You've got Paul Skeens versus Nathan Detmer, and LSU should be minus 200. I don't think you're going to see a price on Paul Skeens starting in conference play until they play Tennessee and Chase Dollander. I laid it with LSU. I also laid it with Arkansas minus 185. I think you can actually get a better number than that now, markets kind of moved against me. But then I liked Wake Forest, but that got pushed to tomorrow as a doubleheader. They've got rain coming in. I would assume that the price will stay the same at minus 175. I think that's way too cheap against a Notre Dame team that they're not Notre Dame of last year. I'm not really sure what the books are thinking. I think they're like 8-5 on the year. They don't have Link Jarrett. They don't have consistent pitching. Wake Forest, again, like LSU, should be minus 200 or more. So I laid it with 3 big dogs or 3 big favorites there. They should all take care of business. I also like a LSU Tennessee moneyline parlay.
To the novice, someone that wants to get involved in baseball, we talked about this a few weeks ago. Give them some great advice on, as you said, you got 3 big favorites there. Would you suggest to the novice maybe a 3-team parlay? I know we're not here preaching parlays, but if you got 3 big favorites, hey, take a swing. All 3 come in. It softens the blow if you happen to go 1 and 2 there. Give out a few sites where they can get some information. Obviously, they can follow you at Grissom Tweets on Twitter, follow you and get some great educational pieces as well. But help the novice.
I mean, if you take, so for instance, LSU is minus 165 to minus 185. I'm not real sure what they are right now, and then you pair them with the Tennessee, who's minus 280. I'm sorry. They're playing Missouri. And I mean, those 2 together pay plus 121. I really wouldn't throw in a third just because it is college baseball and you never know. I mean, just look at basketball yesterday. You're betting on kids. And if you had Arizona in a parlay, they were like minus 5,000 in that money line parlay. And it's just not worth it. So if you can get any plus money while taking 2 solid guys, the only other game that I may throw that in with would be Wake Forest. But like I said, it's moved to tomorrow. So take Paul Skeens, Chase Dollander, the 2 best pitchers in the country, parlay them together and don't get greedy. I don't like anything more than a 3-team parlay. I think there's too many variables, especially in baseball.
As we wrap it up here, give me, I know I'm going to go back to the hardwood. Give me a potential shocker today, tomorrow, or even Sunday that when we meet back again next Thursday, you'll say, who shocked the world?
Well, I would have said UC Santa Barbara, but I don't know. It's 36-35 at half. So it's still not too late, I don't guess. I think UC Santa Barbara beats Baylor. I don't know. Xavier's coming back on Kennesaw State. I haven't even looked at the board for tomorrow. I've been so heavy on college baseball trying to get all these previews out, which you can find at mattgrissom.com. Put a lot of time and effort into that. There's just no resources for college baseball that are all like content driven for social media. And outside of stalking Twitter pages of college baseball teams, you don't really get the information that you need to make a bet. I mean, imagine having to visit 5 websites to find out if like Justin Verlander is pitching. I mean, that's what you have to do to handicap college baseball. And now it's getting even harder because you've got coaches like Van Horn who throws out, well, we don't even know who we're starting Sunday. It's TBA. Okay, well, what are we supposed to do with that information? And I think Auburn got wind of that, and so they posted their starting rotation, and they put their Sunday guys TBA also. So a little Jedi mind tricks going on, I think. But it's just hard to find information, and if you can find the starting rotations, that's at least a good start to handicap how a series goes. But there's still such a lack of information. I'm just trying to provide people with more info than just trying to give out some picks. But, it's going to take a village to get college baseball where it needs to be.
Well, I'll just close with the Jedi mind tricks. All along, the second half number was 7.5 Baylor. And 75.5 was the total. With 1 minute to post, they all dropped it to 6.5. So let's just say the Sharps in the last minute pounded Santa Barbara plus the 7.5. The game is pacing over. So I expect a good heavyweight battle in the second half. I'll go on record here and say 36. I'll lean even more towards the old first one. 78/80 wins that game. How's that sound?
I would agree. Do you have money on it? Did you have a side pre-flop?
We have Baylor team total over 75.5, and we got over 140.5 in the game. And I never double dip, but my numbers were way skewed to the market on Baylor team total and the over on this game. I had about a 10-point difference.
I'm just now looking at numbers for tomorrow. That Duke Tennessee game really surprised me. Duke is only laying 3.5.
And it
Do
opened
they
at
know
2.5,
that Tennessee
Matt.
is coached by Rick Barnes? Do you know what Rick Barnes' tournament ATS record is? I think he's like 4-15. He's pretty horrible. That's a fishy line. I don't want to bet Tennessee.
And it opened at 2.5, Matt.
Yeah, that's odd. I think we'll have a really good game in Auburn-Houston. I'm curious to see how their length sizes up with each other because I don't think Houston is very good. They play very methodically and they rely heavily on defense, but they haven't faced a team like Auburn. Well, I guess they did play Alabama earlier in the season. I think Alabama beat them. So that should be a pretty good game. That line's 5.5. I may take Auburn there.
That's the problem too. Is the leading scorer for Houston played the first half, didn't play the second half. He re-injured that groin, so I assume he's questionable right now.
Sasser, is he? Should be a good game.
All right, so what I'm going to do is everyone, please go follow Matt at Grissom Tweets, and say again where your website, where they can get your blogs and your information again.
It is on my Twitter, but it's mattgrissom.com. So if you can remember my name, you can find me. Get all the info for free. I post all my picks in an Excel spreadsheet and on my Patreon account, which I just set up. So go support it. Hopefully I can win you some money. And chirp at me on Twitter if I don't. I had one guy tell me I should stick to real estate because my picks suck. So that was fun. But live and learn. Try to do better tomorrow.
The one and only Matt Grissom at Grissom Tweets. Go follow him. He is a great follow. He does follow back and he does answer questions. He does have a hammer for all you trolls, so be ready. You can chirp, but you're going to get chirped back as well. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from Matt Grissom at Grissom Tweets, we wish everyone a blessed day. Myself and Matt will try to come back next Thursday afternoon in the solo chair, bringing you some madness again, and we're going to talk about some more college baseball heading up for the weekend. Everyone else, enjoy the madness, and we will see you soon.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I enjoyed it.